A millionaire CEO offered $1 million for one night with a poor virgin masseur. But when she found out UAI really was, she was shocked. Before we dive into the story, let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Enjoy the story, everyone. Alice Parker, CEO of the Parker Group. She used to walk into boardrooms and close million-dollar deals with a handshake. But today, all she wanted was to disappear just for a few hours. She adjusted her sunglasses, opened the car door, and said, "Take me somewhere no one knows me, or I swear I'll lose it in the middle of this meeting." Now her assistant paused, then said, "There's a quiet little spa in the old part of town. Nothing fancy, but I've heard they have a special nasur." Discreet? Totally. No photos, no social media, no gawkers. Alice just nodded. 20 minutes later, the car stopped in front of a worn-down building. Nothing flashy, just a small wooden sign, hand-painted lotus flower, Eastern Therapies. As she walked in, Alice took in the space. No heavy incense, no fake background music, just quiet and a soft scent of lavender. "Good afternoon," said the receptionist with a calm smile. "Full session or just body?" "Full body, and I want your best. Lucas is available. He's our most requested." Alice didn't reply. She walked quietly to a small, cozy room, kicked off her heels, unbuttoned her blazer, and lay down on the massage table. The door opened. "Good afternoon, I'm Lucas. If everything's ready, we can begin." Alice turned her head slightly. He was young, fit, short black hair, calm expression. He didn't seem impressed or curious or even interested. "I'm in a hurry," she said. "Just do what you have to do." Lucas nodded, washed his hands, and began the session. His touch was precise, professional, yet attentive, as if he could feel every bit of tension under her skin. When he reached her calves, Alice shivered. Not from pain. Surprise! Maybe it was the first time someone touched her without expecting something in return. "How long have you been doing this?" she asked, almost without meaning to. "Long enough to know when a body needs silence," he replied, eyes focused on his work. Alice gave a small side smile. "And mine? Does it need silence? Yours is screaming." She let out a short nasal laugh. "Do you always talk like that with your clients?" "Only when they ask." For a second, she wanted to ask more, but didn't. Not yet. 60 minutes later, Alice got dressed in silence and walked to the front desk. Before leaving, she looked at the receptionist and asked almost casually, "That Lucas, is he married?" The receptionist chuckled, surprised. "No, actually, they say he's never been with anyone. Some even say he's still a virgin." Alice raised an eyebrow. "Really? With hands like that?" "Yeah." "He's never accepted any offer. He's private." That's interesting." Alice turned and walked out. In the car, she crossed her legs and leaned her head against the window. "Virgin," she thought. Interesting. Even more surprising. She couldn't stop thinking about him. The next day, before the spa even opened, Alice was already there. This time with a different energy. Something between a challenge and curiosity. "I want the same person. From yesterday, Lucas." "No substitutes," she told the receptionist firmly. Minutes later, she was back on the table, yet waiting. When Lucas entered, he greeted her just as plainly as before. "Miss Parker." "Alice," she corrected, eyes still closed. "Let's skip the formal stuff today." He didn't answer, just started working on her shoulders just like the day before. She waited a bit, let the silence settle, then broke it. "You know, I thought about you last night." "Hope it didn't keep you up," he replied calmly. "No, but I lost my appetite." She smiled. "You're strange, distant, like you're not trying to impress anyone, not even me. It's not my job to impress. It's to help. And what if someone wants more than just help? Lucas paused for a second, then continued. I usually keep boundaries even if the person is interesting. He didn't reply. Let's go out tonight, Lucas. Dinner or nothing formal. Just a bit of time. Outside, here, you and me. No, he said plainly. No hesitation, no sugarcoating. Alice blinked. She wasn't expecting that. You're turning down my invitation. Yes. Why? Because I'm not interested. She sat halfway up on the table, looking at him, challenging. Everyone has a price, Lucas. He looked her in the eyes, calm, unshaken. Not me. Alice reached into her blazer pocket, pulled out an envelope, opened it slowly, and held it out. $1 million for one night. Just tonight, a hotel. Total privacy, no follow-up, no messages, no contact. Lucas didn't even touch the envelope. He just looked at it. Accept it, Lucas. It's just one night. No strings attached. Just desire. Then she slipped the envelope into the pocket of his uniform. You don't have to answer now. Just think about it. Lucas took his hands off her body. He looked at the pocket, then back at Alice. I've already thought about it. And he gently took the envelope out of his pocket, placed it on the table beside him, and said, It's still no. Alice narrowed her eyes. There was something there, a quiet strength she couldn't quite name. You're turning down $1 million. I'm turning down the idea of selling myself. You're brave. No. I just don't want to wake up tomorrow feeling like I did something for money. She lay back down, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in years, she didn't know what to say. And that was interesting. Lucas went back to the massage. Neither of them said another word, but in that silence, something had shifted. That night, Alice didn't sleep. She tossed and turned, thinking about that firm, cleared no. No one, absolutely no one, had turned down something she offered in the last 10 years, especially not $1 million. By 7 in the morning, she was already in the car. Lotus Blossom Spa again, ma'am? The driver asked, surprised. Yes, and step on it. She arrived before the spa even opened, waited outside, drumming her fingers on the steering wheel. When the receptionist arrived, Alice was already at the door. I need to speak to Lucas. It's urgent. He doesn't get here until 9, Mrs. Parker. Then I'll wait. And she did for 2 hours. When Lucas finally walked in, Alice jumped up from the reception chair like a spring. You, she said, pointing at him. I need an explanation. Lucas stopped, looked at her for a moment, and replied, Good morning to you, too. I'm not joking, Lucas. Neither am I. He walked up to the front desk. Marisa, has my first client arrived? Actually, the receptionist glanced at Alice. She's your first client? Alice crossed her arms. I want the same room as yesterday now. She's not scheduled, ma'am, the receptionist mumbled. I don't care. Alice pulled out a $500 bill and placed it on the counter. I need to talk to him alone. Lucas sighed. All right. 20 minutes? In the room, Alice didn't lie down on the table. She stood facing him. Why did you turn me down last night? I already told you. No. You said you didn't want to sell yourself. But we all sell ourselves, Lucas. You work here. I pay. How is that any different? It is different. How? Lucas crossed his arms and leaned against the wall. I work because I choose to, not because someone bought me. Alice gave a dry, sarcastic laugh. How romantic and naive. Maybe. Then tell me, how much for one night? Seriously, how much? Nothing. Everyone has a price. Lucas, mine's not for sale. Alice slowly moved closer to him until she was just inches away. 2 million? No. 5? No. 10 million? Lucas. 10 million. Lucas looked into her eyes. Was that sadness, disappointment? Do you really think I'd change my mind just for more money? Everybody does. I don't. Alice clenched her fists. Her anger was starting to rise. Emery's right. Are you making a fool of me? No, I'm being honest. Honest. She took a step back, her voice rising. You work in a dump earning peanuts per hour, and you're turning down 10 million. That's not honesty, Lucas. That's stupidity. Lucas didn't answer. He just looked at her. Alice lost her composure. You know what? You're right. I was offering you something you don't even deserve. Men like you, small, limited, no ambition, don't know a good opportunity when it slapped them in the face. She stormed toward the door, but stopped and turned around. You'll regret this, Lucas. You'll spend your whole life wondering what it would have been like to really know me. Lucas waited for her to finish. Then, with the same calm as always, he said, Alice? What? You're afraid? Afraid. She let out a sharp laugh. Of what? Of someone who's not impressed by your money? The words hit like a punch. Alice opened her mouth, but nothing came out. And do you know why that scares you? Lucas went on. Because without the money, you don't know who you are. Alice froze. For a second, it felt like he had seen right through her, like he had read every insecurity hiding behind her expensive suits and powerful meetings. You, she began, but her voice gave out. You can be mad at me, Alice. You can curse me out, humiliate me, even try to get me fired. But it won't change the fact that someone told you no, and you don't know how to handle that. Alice felt her face burn. She spun on her heels and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. In the lobby, every employee and a few clients looked her way. She walked past them like a storm, shoved the glass door open, and yelled at the driver, "Start the car now!" Inside the car, she was breathing heavily, furious, humiliated, but also curious. Who the heck does he think he is? She thought. At lunchtime, one of the spa employees posted a short video on Instagram stories just a few seconds long. Alice storming out of the room, clearly upset. The caption read, When the Memsure turns down the rich lady's offer. Within 2 hours, the video had been shared 15 times. In 6, it was on TikTok. By the end of the day, Memsure, who said no to the CEO, was trending in the city. Alice only found out when her assistant called, sounding nervous. Mrs. Parker, have you seen social media today? Why? There's a video of you at the spa. Alice hung up and opened Instagram. The video already had 50,000 views. The comments were brutal. Looks like the rich lady got what she deserved. Did she really offer him money? Plot twist. The guy has integrity. She's probably used to buying people. Alice threw her phone on the couch and covered her face with her hands. For the first time in her life, she had become a joke on the internet. All because of a masseur who had the guts to say no. She woke up the next morning to 15 missed calls. Still in her nightgown, she ran her laptop. The spa video was everywhere. YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, even the city's news website. The headline that stunned the most. Millionaire CEO humiliated by poor masseur. The comments were just as harsh. Finally, someone put that arrogance in check. Bet she's never heard a no before. That guy must have strong values to say no to easy money. Did she really offer him $1 million? Alice slammed the laptop shut. She grabbed her phone and called her marketing team. I want that video taken down now. Mrs. Parker, we already tried, but since it was posted by a private individual, we can't claim copyright, then make something up. It doesn't work like that. Actually, the more we try to remove it, the more attention it gets. It's best to let it die down naturally. Alice hung up, furious. There was nothing she hated more than not being in control. She called her assistant, Julia. I want everything on Lucas Huang. Everything. Full name, address, family, work history, debts, relationships. I want to know what brand of toothpaste he uses. I'm on it, Mrs. Parker. And hire the best private investigator in the city. I don't care how much it costs. 2 hours later, Alice was in her office when Julia came in with a thin folder. This is all we could find on Lucas Huang. Alice opened it quickly. Just 3 pages? That's it. It's strange, Mrs. Parker. He barely exists online. No Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, nothing. The investigator only found the basics. He's been working at the spa for 2 years. Rents a small apartment downtown. Never married. No criminal record. Alice flipped through the pages, frustrated. What about his family? No close relatives in the country. The last name, Huang, is Chinese, but he was born here. Education. Graduated high school from a public school. Then there's a 3-year gap. He shows up again working in massage clinics. Alice slammed the folder on the desk. This doesn't make sense. No one lives without leaving a digital trace. The investigator said the same. It's like he erased his own past or someone erased it for him. That afternoon, Alice couldn't focus on any meetings. During a video call with investors in Hong Kong, one of them joked, "Alice, I saw you became internet famous." Laughter in the background. She turned off the camera without replying. By 5:00, she couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed her keys and drove straight to the spa. Lucas was with a client when she arrived. Alice waited in the lobby, ignoring the curious glances from the staff. When he finished and walked out, he saw her. "You've got some nerve showing up here," Alice said, standing. "This is where I work." For now. Lucas didn't answer. He walked to the front desk and spoke with Marissa about the next appointment. "I'm talking to you." Alice raised her voice. Everyone in the lobby turned to look. Lucas sighed and turned around. "What do you want, Alice?" "I want to know who you really are." "I'm a massage therapist." Liar. She stepped closer, speaking softly but firmly. "No one acts, speaks, or looks the way you do, and is just a neighborhood massage guy. Maybe your prejudices are showing. This isn't prejudice, it's experience. I've negotiated with CEOs, presidents, millionaires. I know power when I see it, and you have power, Lucas. I just don't know where it comes from." Lucas stared at her for a long moment. "And what if I really am what I seem? Just a regular guy who doesn't want to sell out?" "I don't believe it." "Then that's your problem, not mine." Alice clenched her fists. "You humiliated me in public. I just answered your question. Your answer made me a joke. Your actions made you a joke. I just witnessed it." The coldness in his voice made her even angrier. "You're going to regret this, Lucas. I'll find out your secrets, and when I do, I'll use them against you." "Find out what? That I work honestly? That I pay my bills on time? That I treat people with respect? No one is that perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm just not what you want me to be." Alice turned to the receptionist. "Marika, right? How much does he make here?" "Mrs. Parker, that's really not my. I'll double his salary if you fire him right now." The front desk fell silent. Lucas crossed, his arms watching. "Alice," he said calmly, "do you really think that's going to work?" "I'll triple it," Alice went on, ignoring him. 3 times his salary. You could hire 2 replacements and still have money left over. Marissa looked nervously between Alice and Lucas. "Mrs. Parker, I can't make that decision alone." I have to speak to the owner, then call her. Then call the owner. He's traveling. I don't care. Call him now. Reluctantly, Marissa picked up the phone. She dialed and waited. Mr. Chen, sorry to bother you. We have a situation here, she explained briefly. There were a few pauses, clearly listening to instructions. Then she hung up. Well, Alice asked, confident. He said. Marissa glanced at Lucas awkwardly. He said, If you want to fire Lucas, you'll have to buy the whole spa. Alice blinked. What do you mean? Mr. Chen said Lucas is the most requested professional. Half the clients come here just for him. Firing Lucas would be like shutting down the business. Alice's smile slowly faded. How much is the spa? Mrs. Parker. How much? Marissa swallowed hard. It's not for sale. Alice stood still for a moment, processing, then turned to Lucas. You planned this, didn't you? Made yourself indispensable on purpose. Or maybe I'm just good at what I do. At that moment, a man in a suit entered the lobby. Tall, broad-shouldered, looked like a security guy. Mrs. Parker. Yes. I'm Eduardo from your corporate security team. I need to speak with you. It's urgent. Alice gave Lucas one last look. This isn't over. It never was, he replied, calm. Alice followed Eduardo out to the parking lot. What's so urgent? Eduardo pulled a photo from his pocket. It was an old, slightly faded picture. It showed Lucas dressed in an expensive suit, standing next to an older man in front of a business building. Where did you get this? One of our contacts in the police. He was digging into some background info and found this in an archived file. Alice looked closer at the photo. When was this taken? 3 years ago. But Mrs. Parker Eduardo hesitated. This man, he's not who you think he is. Alice snatched the photo from Eduardo's hands. Explain this. Now. The photo came from an archived investigation from 3 years ago. Money laundering involving shell companies. Lucas appeared as a witness, but then disappeared from the records. A witness to what? I couldn't get the details. The case is classified, but... Mrs. Parker. Eduardo lowered his voice. The man next to him in the photo is John Wade Chen. Alice frowned. That name's supposed to mean something. Chen owns half the Chinese restaurants in town. And also, Eduardo paused, also owns the spa where Lucas works. Alice's blood ran cold. You're saying that? That Lucas isn't there by accident. Chen protects him. That's why we couldn't find any info. That's why the spa isn't for sale. That's why Lucas acts like he's untouchable. Alice looked at the photo again. Lucas was smiling, relaxed, like he'd known Chen for years. I want to talk to Chen in person. Mrs. Parker, that could be dangerous. I don't care. Set up a meeting. The next morning, Alice woke up to a call from Julia. Mrs. Parker, we have news about Lucas Huang. Did you find something? Actually, he found something about us. Alice sat up in bed. What do you mean? A letter arrived at the office addressed to you from the law firm Silva and Associates. Never heard of them? It's a small firm, but they specialize in labor law. The letter's about defamation and harassment. Alice jumped up. What do you mean? Lucas is claiming you tried to coerce his employer, offered a bribe to have him fired, and are damaging his professional reputation. He has witnesses. What witnesses? Everyone who was in the lobby yesterday, including 2 clients who recorded it on their phones. Alice gripped the phone tightly. This is ridiculous. I can hire the best lawyers in the country. You can, yes. But Mrs. Parker, the issue isn't the lawyers. It's public opinion. If this goes to court, it'll end up in the news. And after that viral video yesterday, Alice hung up the phone and punched her pillow. How did a simple massage therapist manage to turn the tables like this? 2 hours later, she was in her office when Julia walked in looking worried. Mrs. Parker Chen returned our call and he agreed to meet this afternoon at his restaurant. But there's one condition. What is it? Lucas has to be there. Alice smiled for the first time in days. Perfect. I want to look him in the eye when he finds out I know the connection. That afternoon, Alice arrived at the Golden Dragon, Chen's most elegant restaurant in the upscale part of town. The place was empty except for a few waiters and an older man sitting at a table in the back. Let's have a little fun with those who only read the comments. Type pizza in the comments. Only those who made it this far will understand. Now, back to the story. John Wei Chen was shorter than he looked in photos, but he had presence, graying hair, thin glasses, hands carefully placed on the table. Mrs. Parker, he greeted her in accented English. Mr. Chen, Alice replied in Portuguese. Thank you for seeing me. Please have a seat. Lucas will be here soon. As if on cue, Lucas appeared through the side door. He wore a plain dress shirt and jeans, yet somehow seemed different, more confident. He sat next to Chen without greeting Alice. So, Chen said with a smile, looks like you two have things to clear up. Alice got straight to the point. I know about your connection. I saw the photo. I know Lucas isn't just an employee of yours. Chen raised his eyebrows. What photo? Alice pulled the image from her pocket and placed it on the table. Chen looked at it and let out a genuine laugh. Oh, that one. He looked at Lucas. Do you remember this picture? Lucas nodded. Of course, that was the day you saved me. Alice blinked. Saved you. Chen leaned back in his chair. Mrs. Parker, may I ask what you think happened 3 years ago? Some sort of shady deal, money laundering, corruption. Chen and Lucas exchanged glances. Then Chen started laughing again. Mrs. Parker, that photo was taken the day I offered Lucas a job. He was homeless, had been sleeping on the streets for 2 weeks. Alice felt the ground shift under her feet. What do you mean? Lucas showed up at my restaurant one night asking just for a glass of water. He was thin, dirty, clearly in bad shape. But there was something about him, manners, dignity. I offered him a meal. He insisted on washing dishes in return. Alice looked at Lucas, puzzled. And the police investigation? Oh, that Chen waved a hand. Lucas witnessed a robbery on the street and gave the police useful information. Since he didn't have ID at the time, they had to photograph him for the witness record. No ID? Lucas spoke for the first time. I had lost everything. My documents, money, identity. Chen helped me rebuild my life. Alice was stunned. But you act like you have power, education. I do have an education, Lucas said calmly. I just don't have money. Where does your education come from then? Lucas hesitated. Chen placed a hand on his shoulder. Go ahead, son. She already knows part of the story anyway. Lucas sighed. I was born into a wealthy family, Alice. Very wealthy. But when I was 23, something happened. Something that made me walk away from everything and disappear. What was it? That is personal. Alice leaned in across the table. So you from a rich family? I was. Now I'm just Lucas, the massage therapist Chen rescued from the streets. Chen poured tea for the 3 of them. Mrs. Parker, may I ask you something? Of course. Why are you so interested in Lucas? Alice opened her mouth, but no words came out. For the first time, she didn't know what to say. He challenged me. No one ever said no to you. Exactly. Chen nodded, understanding. And that bothers you because... Because Alice paused. The answer was right there, but hard to say out loud. Because maybe I'm not used to people who don't want something from me. Silence at the table. Mrs. Parker, Chen said kindly, may I give you some advice? I'm listening. Lucas isn't a challenge to be conquered. He's a person to be understood. And understanding people takes patience, respect, and humility. Alice looked at Lucas. He wasn't looking at her with anger or judgment, just curiosity. You really don't want anything from me? She asked plainly. Not in the way you've been offering it. What would be the right way? Lucas thought for a moment. Honesty. I've been honest. Have you? Lucas leaned in slightly. Or have you just been trying to buy something that's not for sale? Alice went quiet. Chen stood up. I'll leave you two to talk. I need to check on the kitchen. When they were finally alone, Alice asked, so what happened 3 years ago, Lucas? What made you walk away from a wealthy life? Does it matter? It does to me. Why? Alice hesitated, because her voice faltered. Because maybe I was wrong about you, and maybe I'd like to really get to know who you are. Lucas studied her for a long moment. Alice, you spent 2 days trying to embarrass me, get me fired, and dig into my past. Why should I trust you now? Because I'm asking, not offering, not demanding, just asking. For the first time, Lucas smiled. Not a sarcastic or guarded smile, an honest one. That's a start. So you'll tell me? Maybe. When you show me that you truly want to know who I am, not who I used to be. Alice stood up. How do I show you that? Drop the defamation lawsuit. Your lawyers are probably already preparing against me. Alice blinked. How did you? Because I know people like you, Alice. They all react the same way when they don't get what they want. Alice looked at him for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone and made a call. Julia, cancel any legal action against Lucas Wong now and drop the investigation too. She hung up and looked at Lucas. Done. Thank you. Now will you tell me? Lucas smiled again. Now you've earned the right to ask again next time. Alice let out a sigh, but she was smiling too. You're impossible. I'm careful. Chen returned to the table with a tray of desserts. Did you two work things out? We were making progress, Alice said. Good. So, may I invite you to dinner here on Sunday? Lucas always has dinner with us on Sundays. Alice looked at Lucas. Can I come? You can, but you'll have to eat with chopsticks. I know how to use chopsticks. We'll see. Lucas laughed. And for the first time in 3 days, Alice felt like she might be starting to understand who Lucas Juan really was, or at least who he had chosen to become. Alice spent the rest of the week trying to focus on work, but the image of Lucas smiling genuinely stayed in her mind. Sunday came faster than she expected. She put on a casual outfit, jeans, and a silk blouse, something she hadn't worn in years. No high heels, no power suits. She just wanted to feel normal. The Golden Dragon was closed to the public when she arrived. Chen welcomed her at the door with a warm smile. Miss Parker, right on time. Alice, please. And thank you for the invitation. Lucas is in the kitchen helping with the prep. I hope you don't mind having real homemade Chinese food, not the kind made for tourists. This will be something new for me. Chen led her to a round table at the back of the restaurant, decorated with simple elegance. Candles, small flowers, a cozy atmosphere. Chen, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you help Lucas? I mean, beyond just being kind, was there something special about him? Chen poured tea into 2 small cups. Have you ever seen someone who's hungry turn down food because they couldn't pay for it? Alice shook her head. Lucas did that. He was clearly undernourished, but he insisted on working before accepting any help. That really impressed me. And after that, then I found out he spoke fluent Mandarin, knew traditional Chinese medicine, could talk about Eastern art and philosophy. It was like he was born in China, not here. Alice raised an eyebrow. Did he study all that? Maybe. I never asked. But from the first day I knew he wasn't just some guy going through hard times. Just then, Lucas appeared carrying a tray with several small dishes. He was wearing a simple white shirt and dark pants. But there was something different about him. He looked more relaxed, more himself. "Hope you're hungry," he said, placing the dishes on the table. "Chen always makes too much." Alice looked at the food. Delicate. Dumplings, steamed fish, stir-fried vegetables with unfamiliar spices, a fragrant soup. It looks amazing. "Did you both cook this?" "Chen taught me." "I learned," Lucas replied, sitting down. "It's our tradition. Sundays are for cooking together like a family." "Exactly," Chen confirmed. "Lucas is like a son to me." During dinner, Alice discovered a new side of Lucas. He told funny stories about his early days in the kitchen, did impressions of Chen when he was upset, laughed easily. He was light. "Lucas," Alice said, trying out the chopsticks, "how did you learn Mandarin? I studied when I was younger." "Where?" "At a private school." Alice noticed the hesitation but didn't press. "Would you teach me a few words?" Lucas smiled. "Thank you is shishi. Please is skin. Sorry is duai, debuchchi." Alice repeated, trying to mimic the tone. "Am I saying it right?" "Almost." The tone is a little. Lucas leaned in toward her. "May I?" She nodded. He gently held her chin, adjusting the position. "Now, try. Do we boop tea?" "Do we boop tea?" Alice repeated, this time more accurately. "Perfect." For a moment they looked at each other. Chen quietly got up. "I'll get dessert." When they were alone, Alice asked, "Why do you speak Mandarin so well, Lucas? And don't give me that. I studied in school line. Your accent is perfect." "Native?" Lucas sighed. "My mother was Chinese. Well, she died when I was 15. I'm sorry. She taught me the language, the culture, the cooking. She said it was important to stay connected to our roots." Alice noticed a sadness in his eyes. "And your father?" "He died too later on." "Is that when you lost everything?" Lucas looked at her for a long moment. "That's part of the story." "Yes." Chen came back with dessert, fresh fruit, and small traditional sweets. "Sorry for the wait. I had to take an important call." "Everything okay?" Lucas asked. Actually, Chen hesitated. "It was about tomorrow's event." Alice looked at them. "What event?" "I have a business dinner," Chen explained. "International investors. I'm trying to expand into other countries." "What kind of investors?" "Mostly Chinese." Lucas sat up straighter. "Chen, I already told you I'm not." I know, but Lucas." Chen looked at Alice. "You speak Mandarin way better than my official interpreter, and you know our culture. It's just for one evening." "Interpreter?" Alice turned to Lucas. "You work as an interpreter?" "Sometimes I help Chen with simple translations. Nothing official. Simple." Chen laughed. "Mrs. Parker, you should see Lucas in a business meeting. He doesn't just translate. He understands cultural nuances, reads between the lines, knows when someone's not being honest." Alice leaned forward, interested. "Really?" Chen's exaggerating. "I'm not. Remember Mr. Wu last month? You realized he was lying about the numbers before I even suspected." "What numbers?" Alice asked. Lucas looked uncomfortable. He was inflating the ingredient costs to justify a higher contract price. How did you figure that out? He changed his tone when mentioning specific amounts. That's common when someone's not being totally honest. Alice looked at Lucas with growing admiration. Where did you learn that? Experience. What kind of experience, Lucas? Before he could answer, Alice's phone rang. It was Julia. Sorry, she said, answering. Hello, Mrs. Parker. Sorry to bother you on a Sunday, but we have an emergency. What kind of emergency? Tomorrow's meeting with the Korean investors. The official interpreter just canceled the flu. Alice felt her stomach tighten. The meeting was crucial for a $15 million expansion. We don't have a backup. We tried 3 agencies already. It's a holiday weekend in Korea. All the good interpreters are booked. Alice looked at Lucas, who was talking quietly with Chen. Julia, give me 10 minutes. I'll take care of it. She hung up and turned to the table. Chen, about that business dinner tomorrow? Yes. Is it by any chance at the Hyatt Regency? Chen and Lucas exchanged surprised looks. How did you know? Because I also have a meeting there with Korean investors and I just lost my interpreter. Lucas straightened up. What kind of meeting? Parker Group expansion into the Asian market. $15 million in initial investment. Chen whistled softly. That's a big meeting. Very big. And if I can't communicate properly, Alice looked at Lucas. Lucas, do you speak Korean? I do fluently. Fairly well. Chen laughed. Fairly. Lucas, you watched a Korean movie with me last month and you were translating jokes the subtitles missed. Alice felt a spark of hope. Lucas, would you consider helping me? What do you mean? Be my interpreter just for one night. I'll pay well. Of course. Lucas shook his head. Alice, it's not about money. Then what is it about? You don't understand. I don't do that kind of work anymore. What kind? Corporate business, Heil meetings, that world. Alice leaned across the table. Why? Lucas was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at Chen, who gave a supportive nod. Because the last time I was in a meeting like that, it was the day I lost everything. Alice felt a chill. What happened? Lucas hesitated. If I agree to help you tomorrow, you're going to see a side of me you might not expect, and it might change the way you see me. For better or worse, I don't know. Depends on what you're looking for in me. Alice thought for a moment. I'm looking for the truth, Lucas. About you, about us, about whatever this is between us. Chen gave a quiet smile. What if I find out you're money more than I thought? And what if you find out I'm much less? Alice reached her hand across the table. There's only one way to find out. Lucas looked at her outstretched hand, then at Chen, who gave a slight nod. Finally, he took her hand. All right, I'll help you. Thank you. But Alice, he gave her hand a gentle squeeze. The day after tomorrow, you're going to have questions. A lot of them. And I'll have to decide if I trust you enough to answer them. And I'll have to decide if I'm ready for the answers. Chen raised his teacup. A toast, then to mutual understanding. Alice and Lucas raised their cups. To mutual understanding, they echoed. But as they toasted, Alice couldn't stop thinking about Lucas's last words. The last time I was in a meeting like this was the day I lost everything. What exactly had happened 3 years ago? And why did she have the feeling she was about to find out far more than she expected? Alice arrived at the Hyatt Regency at 7 in the morning, 2 hours before the meeting. She wanted to go over all the documents and get mentally prepared, but mostly she wanted to talk to Lucas before the investors arrived. He was at the front desk, wearing a dark gray suit that surprised her. It wasn't expensive, but it fit him perfectly, and there was something different about the way he carried himself, more upright, more confident. "You look different," Alice said as she approached. "Clothes make a difference." "It's not just the clothes, Lucas. It's you. You seem—" She hesitated. "You seem like you belong here." Lucas looked away. "Shall we go over the meeting strategy?" They went up to the reserved room. Alice spread documents across the table, but noticed Lucas wasn't paying attention to the papers. He was staring out the window, tense. "Lucas, are you all right?" "I'm fine. It's been 3 years since I've set foot in a place like this." "What's special about this place?" "It's not this place in particular. It's places like this. Luxury hotels, corporate meetings, people, inexpensive suits talking about millions." Alice sat on the edge of the table, studying him. "Was that part of your old life?" "It was my old life." "Do you want to talk about it?" Lucas sighed and stepped away from the window. "Alice, if I tell you, it'll change everything between us. You won't see me as Lucas, the massage therapist, anymore. You'll see me as someone else. And is that a bad thing?" "Depends on what you're looking for in me." Alice stood and walked over to him. "I'm looking for the truth. Whatever it is." Lucas looked into her eyes for a long moment. "My full name is Lucas Wong Jiang. Jiang like Chen. Chen is my uncle, my mother's brother." Alice blinked. "Your uncle?" "He never mentioned, because I asked him not to. When I showed up at the restaurant 3 years ago, I didn't want anyone to know who I was, not even that we were family." "Why?" Lucas sat in one of the meeting room chairs. "Because I was running away, Alice, from my family, my name, my life." "What life?" "John Corporation. Ever heard of it?" Alice felt the blood drain from her face. Jiang Corporation was one of the largest Asian conglomerates in the world. Construction, technology, imports, estimated net worth in the billions. You're from the Jiang family?" "I was. My grandfather founded the company. My father expanded it into Latin America. He hesitated. I was the heir." Alice sank into a chair. "Heir to billions of dollars?" "That's right." "And you gave it all up to be a massage therapist." "I gave it up because it didn't fit who I am." The silence in the room was deafening. "What do you mean?" Lucas stood and walked back to the window. 3 years ago, I was being prepared to take over as president of Gene Corporation. I was 25, had an MBA from Harvard and experience in 3 countries. I was the perfect son, the ideal heir. What happened? I found out the company was involved in questionable activities, overpriced contracts, bribes to politicians, labor exploitation, things I didn't know about, but I should have. Alice leaned forward in her chair. "And you confronted your family?" "I tried. I said I wanted to change the company, make it more ethical." My father, Lucas, paused and took a deep breath. "My father said I was naive, that these were normal business practices. And then I made a mistake, a terrible one." Lucas turned to Alice, and she saw real pain in his eyes. "I had a younger brother, Daniel, 2 years younger but much more ambitious. While I was questioning the family's methods, he was embracing them." "Where is he now?" "Dead." Alice put a hand to her mouth. Lucas Daniel was handling a construction contract in Bangkok, a $50 million project. He knew it was overpriced, knew he was deceiving the Thai government, but he didn't care. Lucas sat back down, but this time he looked smaller, more fragile. "I tried to stop him," he said. "I told him I would expose the scheme if he didn't cancel the contract. We fought. He called me a coward, said I didn't deserve to be the family heir. What did you do? I went to Bangkok in person. I wanted to talk to him, convince him to do the right thing. But when I got there, Lucas paused, swallowing hard. When I got there, Daniel was in the hospital. He'd been in a car accident on his way to a meeting. The doctor said it was on purpose. On purpose? Suicide? Alice. My brother took his own life because he couldn't handle the pressure from the family and from me, questioning everything he did. Alice felt tears come to her eyes. Lucas. That wasn't your fault. Yes, it was. If I hadn't threatened to expose the business, if we hadn't argued, if I hadn't... Lucas stopped breathing heavily. The last thing I said to my brother was that he was a disgrace to the family. You didn't know he was in so much pain. I should have known. He was my younger brother. It was my job to protect him, not judge him. Alice stood and walked over to him. And then, I couldn't live in that world anymore. I couldn't look at my father without seeing Daniel. I couldn't sign contracts without thinking about the consequences. I couldn't be the heir to a fortune built on lies. So you ran away. I did. I only took some personal documents and disappeared. No money, no credit cards, no contact with anyone. I wanted the Kang family to think I was dead. And did they? Lucas gave a bitter smile. My father officially disowned me 6 months later. Told the press I was mentally unstable and no longer part of the family. And you? You never tried to go back? Never. Daniel died because of me. The company kept doing what it always did. And me? I didn't know who I was without the family's money. Alice gently touched his arm. Is that why you became a massage therapist? Chen suggested it. He said I needed to learn how to use my hands to heal, not to harm. And Eastern therapy taught me that sometimes touching someone gently can do more than $1 million deal. They sat in silence for a few minutes. Then Alice asked, Do your parents know where you are? No. And they can't know, Alice. If they find out I'm alive, that I'm here, they'll try to bring me back, and I can't go back to that life, even if it means never seeing your family again. Chen is my family now. And maybe, he looked at her, maybe a few people who see me as Lucas, not as Jang. Just then, Alice's phone rang. It was Julia. Miss Parker. The Korean investors arrived early. They're waiting in the meeting room. Alice looked at Lucas. Are you ready for this? I don't know. It's been 3 years since I dealt with people like that. You want to back out? I can try to find another interpreter. No. Lucas stood up, adjusting his suit. I promised I'd help you. And maybe it's time I use my past experience for something good. Lucas, yes? Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for not running away when you found out who I really am. Alice smiled. The day is still young. They both laughed, and for a moment the tension eased. Shall we? Alice asked. Let's go. But Alice, if at any point during the meeting you notice I've changed, that I seem like a different person, don't be scared. When I'm negotiating, I become the old version of myself, and that's bad. Depends on whether you'll still love me after seeing that side of me. Alice stopped in her tracks. Love? Lucas realized what he just said and blushed. I meant if you'll still respect me? No. Alice stepped closer to him. You said love. That's what you said. Lucas looked into her eyes. I did. Why did you use that word? Because he hesitated. Because I think that's what's happening to me. I'm falling in love with you, Alice, and I'm afraid that once you see me in action, once you remember who I used to be, you'll change your mind about us. Alice held his face in both hands. Lucas Jen or Lucas Wong or Whatever name you choose. I'm falling in love with you too, and nothing I see today will change that. They kissed, right there in the hotel hallway. A long, deep kiss full of unspoken promises. When they finally pulled apart, Lucas smiled. Now I'm ready for any meeting, even if it's with people who might recognize you, especially if it's with people who might recognize me, because now I know who I really am, no matter what's in my past. And who is that? I'm the man in love with Alice Parker. The rest is just details. Alice walked into the meeting room beside Lucas, still feeling the trace of his kiss on her lips. 3 men in dark suits stood respectfully as she entered. Gentlemen, thank you for coming. I'm Alice Parker, CEO of the Parker Group. The oldest of the 3 stepped forward. Miss Parker, I'm Kim Jung, representing the Hanwha Group. These are my colleagues, Parkman Jun and Lee Donwook. Lucas quietly took his place beside Alice. This is Lucas, our interpreter for today. Kim greeted Lucas politely, but Alice noticed a spark of curiosity in his eyes. Does Mr. Lucas speak Korean fluently? Lucas replied in perfect Korean. Kim smiled, clearly impressed, and answered in the same language. Alice didn't understand a word, but she could tell they were enjoying the exchange. What did he say? She whispered to Lucas. He complimented my Korean and asked where I learned it. I told him I studied in Seoul a few years ago. The meeting formally began. Alice presented the Parker Group's numbers, expansion plans, and profit projections. But what truly impressed her was Lucas. He didn't just translate, he interpreted. When Alice said something that might come off too strong for Korean culture, eat, Lucas softened it. When the investors asked technical questions, he explained things Alice hadn't even thought of. They're concerned about return on investment in the first year. Lucas translated after a quick exchange among the Koreans. But they also want to know about the company's social responsibility. That's just as important to them as profit. Alice looked at Lucas surprised. She hadn't prepared anything on social responsibility. Tell them the Parker Group is developing a sustainability program. She improvised. Lucas spoke to the investors, but Alice noticed he said more than she had suggested. What exactly did you say? I said, you're committed to building a solid social responsibility program, and that you'd welcome their ideas on how to do it in a culturally appropriate way for the Asian market. Brilliant. Alice thought he had turned her lack of preparation into a chance for collaboration. The meeting went on for 3 hours. Alice watched Lucas with growing admiration. He read between the lines, noticed when someone was hesitant, and suggested strategic breaks. It was like watching a conductor lead an orchestra. When the meeting finally ended, Kim Jung stood up with a satisfied smile. Miss Parker, we're very impressed with your company and with your interpreter. He said something to Lucas in Korean. Lucas replied briefly. What did he say now? He complimented our teamwork, said, it's rare to see such good harmony between a CEO and an interpreter. Kim shook her hand firmly. We'll have an answer in 48 hours, but I can say things look very positive. After the Koreans left, Alice dropped into a chair. My goodness, Lucas, you were amazing. You did great, too. We completely improvised. If it hadn't been for you translating not just the words, but the meaning. That's what interpreters are for. Alice looked at him, impressed. No, Lucas, interpreters translate you. You negotiated. You read people. You practically closed the deal for me. Lucas looked away, uncomfortable with the compliment. I just used some past experience. What experience? From Gene Corporation. Yes, I spent 5 years learning how to negotiate with Asians. My father always said understanding culture is more important than understanding numbers. Alice got up and walked over to him. Lucas, do you realize what just happened? We made a good deal. You became who you were before, the heir, the negotiator, the businessman. And it was beautiful to watch. Lucas frowned. Alice, I don't want to go back to that life. I don't want to get involved in the business world again. Why not? You're brilliant at it. Because business tore my family apart? Alice paused. But Lucas, you just helped me land a $15 million deal. You understood 3 men I couldn't even talk to. That's part of who you are, a part I'd rather keep buried. Alice moved closer. What if you didn't have to bury it? What if you could use those skills for something good? What do you mean? Work with me, Lucas. He looked at her, surprised. What? Be my consultant for Asian expansion. You know the cultures, speak the languages, understand the subtleties. I need someone like that. Alice, think about it. You could use all your experience and knowledge to build bridges, not tear things down, to create jobs, not exploit people. Lucas shook his head. I can't. If I go back into the corporate world, if my name starts showing up again, you don't have to use the name John. You can just be Lucas Wam. My family has contacts all over Asia. Someone will recognize me. So what? You're an adult. You have the right to choose your own life. Lucas walked over to the window. You don't understand, Alice. If my father finds out where I am, he'll try to bring me back. And if I resist, what could he do? You're independent now. He could hurt the people close to me, like he did with Daniel. Alice felt a chill. What do you mean? Daniel didn't take his life just because of family pressure. Alice, what else happened? Lucas, it's better if you don't know, Alice. My father is a powerful man, and powerful men protect their secrets. If he finds out I'm alive, working in the corporate world again, he might come after me too. Exactly. Alice stayed quiet for a moment, processing it all. Lucas, look at me. He turned around. Are you afraid of your family, or afraid of becoming the man you used to be? Both. But today in that room, you were the man you used to be, and it was beautiful. You used your knowledge to help, not to take advantage. You built bridges, not burned them. What if I like it? What if I start to miss that world? And if you do, would that be so terrible? Lucas looked into her eyes. It would be if it meant losing you. Alice stepped closer. Why would you lose me? Because if I go back to that world, I won't be the simple massage therapist you met. I'll be the billionaire heir who walked away from it all. And maybe you'd rather have the heir. Alice held his face gently. Lucas Zhang, or Lucas Wong. I fell in love with the man who had the courage to turn down my money, the man who chose to use his hands to heal, the man who gave up a fortune for his values. What if I change? Everyone changes, Lucas. The real question is, do you want to change alone or with me? They looked at each other for a long moment. Alice, think about it, okay? You don't have to decide now, but think about the chance to use all of who you are, every part of you, for something good. At that moment, Alice's phone rang. It was Julia. Mrs. Parker, Mr. Kim just called. They want to move forward $15 million, just like we discussed. They'd like to sign the contracts tomorrow. Alice hung up, glowing. Did you hear that? We did it. Lucas smiled, but there was something sad in his expression. Congratulations. You deserve it. We deserve it. I never could have done it without you. Alice, let's celebrate. Dinner, champagne? Talk about the future? About that, Lucas hesitated. I think I need some time to think about work, about everything, about who I am, who I want to be. Not what it means to be with you. Alice felt a tightness in her chest. You're leaving me? No. I'm just stepping back a little to make sure whatever choice I make it for the right reason. How long? I don't know. A few days? A week? Alice nodded, trying not to show how much it hurt. All right. But, Lucas. Yes. Just remember this. Today you weren't the runaway heir. Today you were the man who saved my business and who saved me too. Lucas took her hand and kissed it gently. Alice Parker, you're amazing. And I hope I'm brave enough to deserve you. He walked out of the room, leaving Alice alone with $15 million in contracts and a broken heart. Outside, Lucas stopped in the hallway, leaned against the wall, and took a deep breath. For the first time in 3 years, he had felt like the real Lucas James. And that scared him more than anything. But it also made him feel alive again. The question was, did he have the courage to live? Alice went 5 days without hearing from Lucas. 5 days that felt like 5 years. She tried to focus on work, on the contracts with the Koreans, on endless meetings, but her mind kept drifting back to him. On Friday afternoon, she was signing documents when Julia walked into the office with a look that meant bad news. Mrs. Parker, someone's here to see you. If it's about a meeting, reschedule for Monday. It's personal. He says it's urgent. Alice sighed. Who is it? Ricardo Mendoza. Alice's blood ran cold. Ricardo Mendoza, her ex-fiancé, the man she left 2 years ago when she found out he was more interested in her money than in her. Send him up. A few minutes later, Ricardo walked into the office with the smile she once found charming and now saw as completely fake. Alice, darling, you look as beautiful as ever. What do you want, Ricardo? Straight to the point. I always admired that about you. I don't have time for games. Ricardo sat down in the chair across from her desk, crossing his legs like he owned the place. I heard you've been spending time with some interesting company. Alice narrowed her eyes. What are you talking about? Lucas Wang, the massage therapist. How do you, sweetheart? You've gone viral on the internet. CEO embarrassed by poor massage therapist. Kinda hard to miss. Alice clenched her fists. If you're here to humiliate me, I'm here to protect you. Protect me? From what? Ricardo pulled out his phone and showed Alice a photo. It was Lucas, but in an old picture, wearing an expensive suit at a fancy party. Do you recognize him? Alice looked closer. It was definitely Lucas, but younger, smiling openly, standing with people she didn't recognize. Where did you get this? I have connections, sweetheart. And they told me some very interesting things about your massage therapist boyfriend. What things? Ricardo put away the phone and leaned forward in his chair. Lucas Huang Zhang, son of Janeway Ming, owner of Zhang Corporation, heir to a $4 billion fortune. Alice pretended to be surprised. That's ridiculous, is it? Then why is he working as a massage therapist? Why is he living in a tiny studio apartment? Why is he hiding his last name? Even if it's true, what's the problem? Ricardo laughed. Alice, you're too smart to be naive. A billionaire heir doesn't give it all up to become a massage therapist for the fun of it. Then why? Because he killed someone. Alice felt the floor drop beneath her feet. What? His brother Daniel Zhang, found dead in a hotel in Bangkok 3 years ago. Officially ruled a suicide, but there are rumors it was murder. You're lying. Am I? Ricardo pulled a folder from his briefcase. These are news articles from that time, all in Chinese, of course, but I can have them translated. He spread newspapers and printed documents across the table. Zhang Corporation heir found dead in Bangkok. Zhang family mourns the loss of youngest son. John Wei Ming denies rumors of family disputes. Alice looked at the documents, but the words wouldn't register. And the most interesting part, Ricardo went on, 3 days after his brother died, Lucas disappeared, vanished, no trace. The family claimed he had a mental breakdown. But innocent people don't disappear like that, Alice. People disappear when they have something to hide. Alice got up and walked over to the window. What do you want, Ricardo? I want to protect you from a con artist. A con artist? Think about it, Alice. A billionaire heir shows up in your life pretending to be poor. He charms you with his simple man act, makes you feel special because he doesn't want your money, when in reality, he has access to way more money than you do. Alice turned to face him. And what's the con? Getting you to fall in love, marry him, and then, well, accidents happen, especially to people who know too much about suspicious deaths. You're being absurd. Am I? Has Lucas ever told you about his brother? Alice hesitated. Lucas had told her, but not with the kind of detail Ricardo was hinting at. Has he ever explained why he really disappeared? Why a man with the best education in the world now works with his hands? Ricardo, I want you to leave. Alice, I love you. I've always loved you. I know things ended badly between us, but you cheated on me. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness, but it didn't change how I feel about you. Ricardo stood and walked toward her. Let me protect you, Alice. Let me help you find out the truth about Lucas before it's too late. Get out of my office, Alice, get out. Ricardo raised his hands in surrender. Fine. But think about what I said. And when you find out I was right, you know where to find me. He gathered the documents and left, leaving Alice alone with her doubts. Let's play a little game for those who only read the comments. Type Coca-Cola in the comments. Only those who made it this far will understand. Now let's continue the story. That night, Alice couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, going over every conversation she'd ever had with Lucas. Had he lied about anything? Had he left out something important? Daniel didn't just take his life because of family pressure, Alice. He did it because my father threatened him. That was Lucas's version. But what if there was another side? What if Ricardo was right? Saturday morning, Alice decided to go to the spa. She had to see Lucas, look him in the eye, ask the questions Ricardo had planted in her mind. She arrived at Lotus Flower at 9 a.m. Marika was at the front desk. Mrs. Parker? What a surprise. Would you like to schedule a session? I need to talk to Lucas. Oh. Marika hesitated. Lucas didn't come in today. What do you mean? He called on Monday and said he needed a few days off. He didn't say when he'd be back. Alice felt a knot in her stomach. Did he say anything? Leave a message? No, he just said. Marika paused. Said what? He said he might not come back, that maybe it was for the best. Alice left the spa with a heavy heart. She drove to the small apartment where Lucas lived. She rang the doorbell several times. Nothing. She asked the neighbor downstairs. That young man from 304. I haven't seen him in days, but I heard moving noises on Wednesday night. Alice rushed up to the 3rd floor. The apartment door was unlocked. She stepped inside. The place was empty. Completely empty. As if no one had ever lived there. She sat down on the cold floor of the empty apartment and for the first time in years, cried. When she got home, there was an envelope waiting at her door. Her name was written in handwriting she recognized right away. Inside, there was just one piece of paper with a single sentence. When you trust the silence, I'll come back, Lucas. Alice crumpled the letter and threw it far. Then she regretted it, ran after it, smoothed the paper out, and read it again. Trust the silence. What did that mean? She spent the whole Sunday thinking about it. Trust the silence. Not believe in rumors. Not listen to others. Trust what hasn't been said. On Monday, Ricardo called. Alice, I heard your boyfriend disappeared. How do you know that? I have eyes around town, dear. Do you want to know where he went? Alice hesitated. Part of her wanted to know. Part of her wanted to follow the letter's advice. Alice, are you there? I'm here. I can find out where he is. I can show you who he really is. You just have to let me. Alice looked at the crumpled letter on her table. When you trust the silence, I'll come back. Ricardo? Yes. Don't call me again. She hung up the phone. That night, Alice had dinner alone for the first time in weeks. The food tasted like nothing. The house felt bigger and emptier. But she had made a decision. She would trust the silence. She would trust Lucas, even without knowing where he was. Even without understanding why he left, even with all the doubts Ricardo had planted. Because deep down, she knew something Ricardo didn't. She knew Lucas had cried when he talked about his brother. She knew his hands shook when he mentioned his family. She knew he looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. And people who pretend don't cry like that, don't shake like that, don't look like that. Lucas would come back. When he was ready, when he knew who he was and what he wanted, and she would be waiting with or without silence, but most of all, with trust. On Thursday, 1 week after Lucas disappeared, Alice was leaving the office when her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Parker. This is the reception desk at Parker Group. There's a man downstairs who says he needs to speak with you urgently. Who is it? He says his name is Chen. Alice smiled for the first time in a week. Send him up. Chen entered Alice's office with the most serious look she'd ever seen on him. No warm smile, no fatherly kindness. He looked worried. Mr. Chen, what a surprise. Please have a seat. Mrs. Parker, thank you for seeing me. Of course. Would you like some coffee? Water? No, thank you. I came here for a very specific reason. Alice sat behind her desk, trying to read his expression. Is it about Lucas? Yes. He told me you talked about his past, about the Jiang family. He did. And he also told me you're his uncle. Chen nodded. I came because something is happening, Mrs. Parker. Something that could affect both you and Lucas. Alice felt a chill. What kind of thing? Yesterday, I got a call from my brother-in-law, Jianwei Ming. Lucas's father? Yes. He knows Lucas is alive, and he knows where he is. Alice leaned forward in her chair. How did he find out? Someone went to him. Someone with pictures, information, details about Lucas's life here. Ricardo, Alice whispered. You know this person. He's my ex-fiancé. He came here last week with information about Lucas. Said he wanted to protect me. Chen shook his head, clearly worried. Mrs. Parker, you don't understand. John Wei Ming isn't just a wealthy businessman. He is, how can I say this, a man who solves problems in final ways. Are you saying he's dangerous? I'm saying when he wants something, he gets it, no matter the cost. Alice got up and walked to the window. And what does he want? Lucas back to take over the company. His oldest son died. Remember, Lucas is the only heir now. But Lucas doesn't want to go back. What Lucas wants has never mattered to Jean Wei Ming. Alice turned to Chen. Where is Lucas now? Hiding. When he found out his father knew where he was, he disappeared again. Why didn't he come to me? Chen sighed. Because he's trying to protect you, Mrs. Parker. He knows if his father finds out about you two, he'll use me as leverage. Exactly. Alice sat back down, trying to process everything. Chen, I need more details. What exactly happened to Daniel? Lucas told me his version, but Lucas's version is the truth. Daniel really did take his own life because of family pressure and another reason. What other reason? Chen hesitated. Because his father wanted him to marry a woman for convenience, and he wanted him involved in a legal business. Alice felt her blood run cold. How could he do that to his own son? Daniel had become a problem. He was asking questions, challenging the way things were done, threatening to expose certain company practices. Jiang Wei-ming decided it would be easier to get rid of the difficult son by forcing him to marry and take part in his shady business deals. My God! Daniel was furious, and with all the pressure he felt trapped. He saw no way out and ended his life. Alice covered her mouth with her hands. And Lucas knows this. He does. That's why he ran. He knew that if he confronted his father, he'd face the same kind of pressure. Why are you only telling me this now? Because Lucas asked me not to. But I can't let you make decisions without knowing the real danger. Alice was silent for a long moment. Chen, do you know where Lucas is now? I don't. He said it was better that way, that if I didn't know, I couldn't be forced to tell. Just then, the phone on Alice's desk rang. It was Julia. Mrs. Parker, sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation downstairs. What kind of situation? Men in suits are asking about you. They say they're investors, but they look more like security agents. Alice looked at Chen, who had turned pale. How many men? 3. And there's a black car parked outside the building. Alice hung up and turned to Chen. They're here. Looks like it. What do we do? You leave through the garage now. I'll stay and say I don't know anything. And Lucas? Lucas is on his own, just like always. Alice grabbed her purse and headed for the door, but stopped. Chen, one question. Why are you helping me? You barely know me. Because Lucas is in love with you, and I've never seen my nephew in love before. I don't want him to lose that because of his father. Despite the tension, Alice smiled. Thank you, Mrs. Parker. Yes, if you find Lucas, tell him he doesn't have to run alone anymore. Alice went down the emergency stairs to the garage. Her heart was pounding so hard she feared the men upstairs could hear it. She got into her car and drove aimlessly for an hour, checking her rearview mirror constantly. When she was sure she wasn't being followed, she stopped at a small cafe and called Julia. Are the men still there? They left about 20 minutes ago. They talked to Chen and then left. Is Chen okay? He's fine. He said not to worry, that he'd handle everything. Alice hung up and stared at her phone. She had to find Lucas. But how? She spent the next 3 days trying to figure out where he could be. She checked hotels, guest houses, asked mutual acquaintances. Nothing. On Wednesday, she was in her office when Julia burst in. Mrs. Parker, it's an emergency. What is it, the company? Someone hacked our system. All our client files have been leaked. Financial data, contracts, confidential information. Alice felt the world spin. When? This morning. Clients are already calling. Furious. The lawyers say we could face billion-dollar lawsuits. How did this happen? We don't know. The IT team is investigating, but the phone rang. Alice answered. Alice Parker. Mrs. Parker, this is Kim John from the Korean investors. Mr. Kim, how are you? Worried. We heard about the data breach. Unfortunately, this affects our decision to invest. Mr. Kim, I can explain. I'm sorry, Mrs. Parker, but we can't be involved with a company that has such serious security issues. He hung up. Alice collapsed into her chair. Within 2 hours, she received 12 more calls just like that. Investors, clients, partners, all canceling contracts, pulling funding, demanding answers. At 5 p.m., Julia came in again. "Mrs. Parker, we just received an offer to buy the company." Alice looked at her in disbelief. "What do you mean?" "An investment group is offering to buy Parker Group, 10% above market value." "Who?" "Chang International Holdings." Alice felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. "Jiang, do you know them?" Alice didn't answer. She grabbed the proposal and scanned it quickly. It was generous. Too generous. "Julia, leave me alone. Mrs. Parker, they want an answer by tomorrow." I said, "Leave me alone." Julia quickly left. Alice stared at the offer, understanding exactly what was going on. Jiang Wei Ming had planned everything. The leak, the cancellations, the financial crisis, all of it to force her to sell the company to him. And she knew why. It wasn't about money. It was about Lucas. Her personal phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello, Alice." She recognized the voice instantly. "Lucas, where are you?" "That doesn't matter. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, but my company, I know. I saw the news. Lucas, it was your father, wasn't it?" Silence on the other end. "Lucas. Alice. I need you to accept his offer." "What?" "Sell the company. Take the money and stay away from me." "Never." "Alice, you don't understand. He'll destroy everything you've built until you give in, then let him try." "I won't sell to him." "Alice, no." "Lucas, did you hear me?" "I'm not selling, even if it means losing everything, even if it means losing everything except you." "Alice, there's an emergency board meeting at your company tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon. I'll be there." "How do you?" "Because tomorrow I stop running and I start fighting." "Lucas, it's dangerous. He said you'd rather lose everything than lose me, right?" "I did. Then now I'm going to prove I'd rather risk everything than lose you." He hung up. Alice stared at the phone, fear and hope battling inside her. Tomorrow she would find out who Lucas Jiang really was and whether he was brave enough to face his own father. Alice arrived at the Parker Group's boardroom at 2:45 p.m. Her lawyers were already there, along with 3 board members. Everyone looked tense. "Mrs. Parker," said Dr. Martinez, her lead attorney, "I need to be direct. With the data breach and mass cancellations, the company has lost 70% of its market value in 3 days. I understand. The offer from Chang International Holdings is our only viable option right now." Alice sat at the head of the table. "And what if I say I refuse to sell under any circumstance?" The lawyers exchanged worried glances. "Mrs. Parker, with all due respect, that would be financial suicide." At exactly 3:00, the door opened. Alice expected to see Lucas, but instead, a distinguished older man entered, dressed sharply with gray hair and a cold expression. Behind him were 2 men in dark suits. "Mrs. Parker," the man said, with a light Chinese accent. "I am Jiang Wei Ming." Alice stood keeping her composure. "Mr. Zhang, I wasn't expecting you in person. When it comes to important business, I prefer face-to-face meetings." He sat without being invited. The other men remained standing like bodyguards. "I assume you've read our proposal." "I haven't had answer is no." Jane Wei Ming gave a cold smile. "Mrs. Parker, perhaps you don't understand the seriousness of the situation. Your company is collapsing. In a week, you'll have no clients left. In 2, you won't be able to pay your staff. Then I'll rebuild from the ground up. With what money? Which investors? Who's going to trust a CEO who couldn't protect sensitive data?" Alice leaned across the table. "Mr. Kang, let's stop pretending. You orchestrated all of this, didn't you? The leak, the cancellations, the crisis. Those are very serious accusations, Mrs. Parker. They're facts, and we both know why you're doing this. Because I want to expand my business into this country. Because you want to force your son to come home. John Wei Ming's smile vanished. My son is dead, Mrs. Parker. He died 3 years ago in an accident. That's a lie. At that moment, the door opened again. Alice's heart raced. Lucas entered the room, but he wasn't the same Lucas she knew. He wore a flawless suit, stood tall, and looked confident. He looked powerful. Hello, Father. The room fell silent. Zhang Yiming froze for a moment, then gathered himself. Lucas, you've grown. You've aged. I thought you were dead. I was for 3 years, but now I'm back. Lucas walked to the table and sat beside Alice. Gentlemen, he said in fluent English to the lawyers and board members, then translated, I'm Lucas Jen, heir to the Zhang Corporation, and I'm here to make a counteroffer. Jane Wei Ming narrowed his eyes. What counteroffer? Lucas pulled a folder from his briefcase. I'll buy Parker Group myself for 20% above the original market value before the crisis you caused. With what money? You're a poor massage therapist. Lucas smiled. I'm heir to 40% of the Chiang Corporation shares that were never officially transferred because you never officially declared me dead. Jiang Ming turned pale. Those shares were frozen by you illegally. I filed a lawsuit yesterday to unfreeze them. Lucas opened the folder and spread documents across the table. Here are the papers. My identity has officially been restored. The Chinese courts have released my assets, and I have enough money now to buy 10 companies like the Parker Group. Alice looked at Lucas, stunned. He was no longer the unsure massage therapist. He was the billionaire heir he had always been. Lucas, John Wayne said, his voice lower, you don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly. I'm saving the company of the woman I love and stopping you from ruining one more innocent life. The woman you love? Jane Wei Ming looked at Alice with disdain. She only wants your money, Lucas, like all the others. Actually, Alice said, standing up, I fell in love with him when I thought he had nothing, when I thought he was just a poor massage therapist. How convenient. Mr. Jiang, Alice interrupted, I offered your son $1 million the first time we met. He turned it down. Then I offered $10 million, and he still said no. Do you know why? Tang Wei didn't answer. Because he's the most honest man I've ever known. He chose to use his hands to heal people instead of using money to control them. He chose humility over power. He chose love over revenge. Lucas took Alice's hand. And now Lucas said, I'm choosing to fight instead of run. Changing Ning stood up abruptly. Lucas, if you do this, if you buy that company, you'll be declaring war on me. No, Father. I'm declaring independence. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I know exactly. I saw what you did to Daniel. Daniel was weak, just like you. Daniel was sensitive like me. The difference is I found someone who gives me the strength to be who I really am. Alice squeezed Lucas's hand. Mr. Jiang, she said, I accept your son's offer. I'm selling my company to Lucas Jiang for 51%, Lucas added. Alice will remain the majority partner. Jiang Wei Ming looked back and forth between the two, furious. You have no idea who you're messing with. Oh, we know, Lucas said, rising to his feet. We're standing up to a man who puts business above even his own children. A man who crushes honest companies just to get what he wants. A man who mistakes fear for respect. Lucas. But Father, Lucas continued, his voice steady but without anger, we're also standing up to a man who once taught me that family is sacred, who took me fishing when I was 5, who cried when my mother died. John Wemming's eyes suddenly filled with unexpected tears. That man is still somewhere inside you, and when he's ready to talk to his son again, no threats, no manipulation, no power. I'll be here. Lucas headed toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Father, give back the money you stole from Alice's client through that data breach, or I'll take it straight to the federal police. Jen Wei Ming stood frozen in the middle of the room, suddenly looking very old and very tired. How did you know about the money? Because I know you and because Chen told me about your methods, Chen, Jiang Wei Ming muttered. My brother-in-law was always loyal to you. He's loyal to family. Real family, not the kind built on fear. Jiang Wei Ming turned to Alice. Are you sure about what you're doing, Miss Parker? Absolutely. I'm marrying a man worth more than all your money combined. Marrying? Lucas looked at Alice, surprised. Alice blushed. Well, assuming you're going to ask me. Lucas dropped the briefcase, got down on one knee right there in the meeting room, and pulled a small box from his pocket. Alice Parker, will you marry me? Knowing I'll use my fortune to build, not destroy. Knowing I'll still want to work as a massage therapist now and then, because it reminds me of the man I chose to be. Knowing we'll have to deal with a complicated family. Alice laughed through her tears. Yes, yes, 1,000 times. Yes! Lucas slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her right there in front of the lawyers, the advisors, and his own father. When they finally pulled apart, Jiang Wei Ming had sat back down staring at the papers on the table. The ring, he said quietly. It was your mother's. I know, Lucas replied. Chen gave it to me. He said she'd wanted to go to the woman who reminded me what truly matters. Jiang Wei Ming nodded slightly, still looking at the table. She'd be proud of you, Lucas. I know. And maybe someday you will be too. 2 months later, Alice and Lucas were married on a quiet, secluded beach. Chen was the best man. There were no crowds, no show, just the sound of waves, a sunset, and 2 people who found each other when they least expected it. Alice wore a simple dress and was barefoot in the sand. Lucas wore a light suit, and he was barefoot too. During the ceremony, when the pastor asked if they had anything to say to each other, Lucas held Alice's hands and said, Alice Parker, you taught me that the greatest luxury in life isn't money. It's having someone who loves you just the way you are. I promise to use my hands to touch you with kindness every day of our lives, and I promise to use my money to make the world a little better, just like you taught me. Alice, crying with happiness, replied, Lucas John, you taught me that true power doesn't come from money. It comes from the courage to say no to what's wrong and yes to what's real. I promise never to try to buy love again, because I already have the only love that truly matters. They kissed as the sun fully set, with Chen clapping and a few friends tossing rose petals. The next day, Alice and Lucas announced the creation of the Parker Jong Foundation, dedicated to helping homeless youth and promoting ethical practices in business. And every night before going to sleep, Lucas would massage Alice's feet. Not for money, not out of duty, out of love. And Alice finally understood that some things truly have no price. Jiang Wei Ming never tried to contact them again. But 6 months after the wedding, a gift arrived. A cherry tree planted in the garden of their new home, with a card that simply read, For shade and blossoms, a father who is learning. Lucas planted the tree himself, and sometimes when no one was watching, Alice would catch him talking to it as if he were talking to his father. Some kinds of love, after all, deserve a second chance, too. What did you think of Alice and Lucas's story? Share your thoughts in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What's your score? Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to follow all our stories. And don't forget to watch more touching stories right here on the final screen.